Greetings, young geographers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Geography with me, Mr. Powell. In this unit, we will be learning all about maps. For reference, we will be tackling the National Geographic Standard 1, how to use maps in other geographical representations, geospatial technologies, and spatial thinking to understand and communicate information. But really, that's just Professor Smartypants' way of saying we're going to learn to read maps. So, are you ready? Well, ready or not, here we go. Our first topic will be discussing what I like to call the three basic maps, or Mr. Powell's three basic maps. There are all kinds of maps out there that serve various purposes, but if you know how to read these three maps, it will be easy to figure out how to read the others because the components are essentially the same. Our first type of map is called a political map. These maps show us what we call political boundaries. Political boundaries. Political boundaries are basically lines on a map that help us separate regions of an area. For example, if you ride your bike in any direction for a long time, eventually you will be in a completely different city or maybe even a completely different state. If you are not outside the US, you might find yourself in a different province. Here we have a map of Spain. Do you see these white lines? These are boundaries separating the different provinces here in Spain. So for instance, if we are in the province of Catalunya, right here, and we are in the city of Barcelona, if we drive or ride or walk to the west, we'll cross this line right here and end up in the province of Aragon. And we can head on down to Zaragoza. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Apologies if I mispronounced that. But that's what happens. So you cross over this white line here, and on this map, this lets you know that, hey, you're no longer in Catalunya, you are now in Aragon. By the way, so these lines show boundary lines such as counties, provinces, states, and cities, and etc. Here we have a map of the United States. Just like the previous map, you notice white lines. Similarly, just like the map in Spain, the states are different colors. Now, there are times that the colors on a map mean something, but unless there's a key, the colors are simply used to help us see where one area ends and another begins. For instance, if I pointed to an area in Kentucky, right here, here's Kentucky, could I convince you that my mouse here was actually in Tennessee? Obviously not, because one, we crossed this white line here. We are in Kentucky, and also the area around my mouse here is purple. So that just the colors just help us separate the different regions. Here we have a map of the entire world. You see the different colors here, once again, just showing the separation. Because if they were all the same color, it would be hard to notice the boundaries between the regions. So the colors help us see where one ends and the other begins. This political map shows us all of the countries of the world. We have Canada here, the United States, Mexico, Russia here. We have China, Australia, Brazil. So this map's purpose is simply to show us where the countries are all around the world. The next map is called a physical map. A physical map shows us the natural physical features of an area, landforms, water sources found in these specific areas. It provides a better understanding of relative location and the physical characteristics of a place. So if we look at this map, we can see these blue lines here, and obviously that refers to water. We can see water there, these are rivers. And then this rustic area here is mountains, or some mountains, a lot of rock, not a whole lot of water, desert area, that sort of thing. Out here we see more blue. We can know that this is water. Here we have the water of the Great Lakes. So you don't see any countries, you don't see any cities. All you see are things that are physically there that you can actually touch. Here's another map with a key here. I just blew that up. This right here is the key that is down here in this map. So here we have a map of primarily Africa, the continent of Africa. This is a key, and this tells us what everything on the map represents. So these colors here tell us the height of the land. So the darker red it gets, the higher it is. The more green it gets, the lower it is. Depths of the sea, the same thing. This light blue says it is very shallow, so right here is fairly shallow. And then the darker it gets means it is very deep. So around here it's very deep, around here it's very deep, but you have these pockets of more shallow water, especially right around here. So here, once again, similar to the map we looked at before, it is a map of the entire world. Now, we can see there's a difference here. This time we're not looking at where the different countries are. This map has a lot of color, and it's showing us the physical features. So here we have green, we have yellow, we have blue, we have white. What do you think that white here means? If you guess snow, you are correct. That is Greenland, very snowy up there. So the more rustic areas we can see is less water, a lot more mountainous. Here we go, the United States here. The more green it is means it's more luscious, more forest, right? So down here we got Antarctica, lots of ice, right? So it's the same map, but just one is showing the physical features and the other is showing the political features. Lastly, for our three types of maps, we have thematic maps. Think about theme, like there's a theme to a story, right? If you're doing ELA or you're reading, there's a theme in stories. So this is a theme for a map. It tells us more specific information. So this shows information based on a theme such as population, climate, life expectancy, crime, any sort of theme like that. You want to look at an area and find some specific information, then you would use a thematic map because it's going to tell you exactly what you want to know in an area. There can sometimes be multiple themes in the same map. So the three types of thematic maps, just bear with me, I know it's a little confusing. We have our three basic maps, which are political, physical, and thematic. Thematic is our third type of map. Of thematic, we're going to look at three thematic maps, okay? So political, physical, thematic. And there are three thematic maps. They are qualitative, cartogram, and flow line. So how might maps like these be helpful to people? Just as I said a second ago, it shows different information about an area. It's not as concerned with where are the cities, where are the states. It might be more concerned about where are the natural resources in that area. How many crimes happen in this area versus a different area? So let's look at those real fast. Here is a qualitative map. It uses colors, symbols, dots, and lines to show information. They include things like historical maps, like the one on the right, which is right here. This is a historical map. Population maps, even tourist maps, like the one we're going to look at in a minute. So this is a historical map. It shows you a region which is Europe. It says the expansion of the Roman Republic. And by color, remember we talked about how colors can sometimes mean something. In this instance, purple means Rome 500 BC. So 500 years before Christ, before Jesus, that was Rome. And if we look here, here is purple. That lets us know that that's all Rome was. It wasn't very big at first. And then at the start of the First Punic War, which was 264 BC, which is 264 years before Jesus, it was green. So now we have the purple and the green. So by this time, we can see that Rome had expanded quite a bit from this little section right here to most all of what is now modern day Italy. And the orange says the end of the Third Punic War, 146 BC. So only 146 years before Jesus. Orange, so they expanded they have the purple, they have the green, and they also have this orange here. So they got into what was once Greece, or is modern day Greece, and into parts of Spain here. And then by the death of Caesar, Julius Caesar, if you know him, 44 BC, 44 years before Jesus, Rome was purple, had the purple area, the green area, the orange area, and the red area all around here. So they were doing pretty good, pretty good. And that's how a qualitative map is used, using colors. Let's look at this one. Another qualitative map. This is a tourist map of Los Angeles. We can look at this map and be able to tell by the symbols what's going on over there. So we have a guy hiking here. What do you think that means? Hiking trails, right? Walking through the forest, taking a walk. We got a boat here. Let's see. I can't quite see it. For cruises. So this is where cruises take place right down here, based on that symbol. And of course, we have a key here that helps us better understand what the symbols mean. So obviously, that's not a literal boat on that piece of paper, right? It is a symbol. It's a drawing of a boat which symbolizes where cruises are taking place. There is the Disneyland theme park. That's a symbol of where relatively it is in Los Angeles, based on that map. And once again, here's another qualitative map using primarily colors. Death and injury risk. So based on this map of, I believe this is Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, the red colors are the highest risk of injuries or death because of crime and such things. And then the bluer areas, like around here, these are the lowest risk of injury or death because of crimes. So maps like this can be very, very helpful, especially if you're considering moving somewhere. If you want to move somewhere, you want to make sure that area is pretty safe, you might use a crime map like this to figure out where the best place to live is. Here's another qualitative map, emphasis on symbols, but also there's some colors. Green means land, right? This blue here, oceans. It's got some labels here. Gulf of Mexico, which is now Gulf of America. The Atlantic Ocean over here, the Pacific Ocean over here. And notice there's also labels for the states here. We got Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida. But the main reason those states are there is this is a United States resources map, the resources that United States have. So we look at this as a golden piece, golden brick. What does that mean? We look over here at the key. The key lets us know that is gold. So Nevada has gold. What about these little trees over here? What does that symbolize? It means a forest. So Georgia has the natural resources of forest. So this is an easy, quick way to look and see what natural resources are in the United States simply by using a map. Next, we have cartograms. Cartograms are very easy to recognize because they look weird. They look funky, all right? These are used to show specific information about a region or country, basing the region or country size on the information gathered. It is often has to do with counting. So if you're counting how many of something is in a certain state or country, you might see them misshapen. So let's just say we are trying to see how many black bears were living in Georgia. How many black bears live in Georgia? How many black bears live in Georgia compared to the other states? So you would create a cartogram map, and whatever state had the most black bears would be bigger. If they didn't have any black bears or they had fewer black bears, they'd be smaller. So depending on how many black bears they had, the states would be bigger or smaller, and the one with the most black bears would be the biggest. This one right here is the 2020 presidential election results, the state scale to electoral votes. So depending on how many electoral votes each state has, that is their size. So notice California has a lot of electoral votes, so therefore it is big. I mean, California is kind of a big state already, isn't it? But particularly with the number of electoral votes it has, it's a lot bigger. Same thing with Texas. Texas is really big because it has a lot of electoral votes. But even some of the smaller states in size could be bigger. So like New York. New York is a lot bigger than it would be on a regular map because the number of electoral votes it has, which is based on population, right? So very simple there. Same thing can be applied to the entire world, like at this map. This is a population map. This is a very common use of cartogram maps. We see China, India, Brazil, the United States, Mexico, Nigeria. These are all the most populated countries in the world. Now look at this. If you've seen a map of Europe, right? And you know how big Russia is. Well, here's Russia right there. Notice it's very skinny. It's not as big as it would be in a regular map. That's because Russia, despite its large size physically, is not that heavily populated. A lot of Russia is so cold that people don't live there. Whereas China is huge because it is very, very heavily populated. And just by glancing at this map, you can quickly see what countries are very large as opposed to what countries are very small, despite their size in reality. Here's another cartogram. Once again, population map. And as always, it looks weird because the countries are sized based on their population. Here is Russia once again, very small. Here is China. There is India, Brazil, United States, Nigeria. So quick glance at this map, you can see what countries are largest, once again, in population, not physical size. And then finally, we have what is called a flow line map. It's very simple to recognize. You see arrows. This illustrates movement of people, goods, ideas, animals, or even glaciers. This is usually shown in a series of arrows, often expressing a specific period of time. It includes human immigration, animal migration, and even things like the water cycle. So if you think about the water cycle, most of us have seen the water cycle before. You know, it goes up and around and down, right? It shows arrows. That is a flow line map. This one is a flow line map of immigration to the United States in 2007. Now, this arrow is very, very thick. You notice that? This arrow here is very, very thin. Why do you think that is? If you guess there's more people coming from that country or that continent, you are correct. Way more people are coming from this area of the world than from Australia and Oceania. There's also a key down here that says this thick line. I'm be honest, I can't quite read that. It's a little small for my eyes. But it lets you know that most people are coming from this region as opposed to this region down here. Here's another flow line map. This is the monarch migration, spring and fall for the monarch butterflies. These arrows let you know where they travel to. Very simple. Some are going up like this, some are going down here, and it provides us a key. Some of those colors and designs represent different information, and you can use this key to better understand what that map is showing you. That's important. Just as I spoke about a minute ago, the water cycle. This is a flow line map. If it is a map that shows movement and uses arrows, it is a flow line map because it flows, right? It flows. And we don't have to go over the water cycle. You probably took some of that in science. You already know how it all works. But just to show you, this is a flow line map. All right, that is it for lesson 1, unit 1, lesson 1 for geography with Mr. Powell. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and can't wait to see you on the next one.